What's up, everyone? You are listening to Sisters Breaking Cycles, the podcast.
Grab your favorite drink of choice and join us as we have some hard conversations that no one else wants to have.
I am your host, Joanna, aka JoJo.
And I am your co host, Jasmine.
Yay! And this is our episode 2. We are
No.
so excited. We are so excited. If you haven't seen episode 1, go watch it now. It's literally just getting to know us sharing a little bit about our personalities and who we are so that you understand a little bit of as we get into deeper conversations, you understand our personalities and you kind of relate it to our personas. So, today's topic that we want to talk about is around shame and judgment. Because one of the things that me and my sister always talk about is it's inevitable. Like you're always at some point in your life you're going to feel shame. At some point in your life you're going to feel judged or you might be the judger. Um And not enough people talk about that. Not enough
Mhm.
people wanna have the hard conversations and shine light on that. Everything's very superficial and just on the outside, but there's a lot of things that are deeply rooted within us that really shape who we are. So we really wanna talk about that today and kinda dive in a little deeper. So we started off by searching the Google definitions. So I'll go ahead and start off with the judgment one. According to Google, it's the process of forming an opinion or evaluation by comparing. Pretty spot on,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Pretty spot
Yes,
on.
I definitely agree with that. I think well for me, definitely judgment is that comparison, either comparing yourself to others or someone, you know, yeah, comparing yourself to others. Yeah, I feel like it really is that root. And so shame, it says, a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by a consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Yes.
Consciousness. That's what I think about when I think about shame. When I think about shame, I always think of it as internal. It is something that I
Hmm.
am feeling. It is something that based on my upbringing, based on my surroundings, based on my environment, I came to a conclusion or I was told, like instilled values in me about what is right, what is wrong, and that's where shame comes from. That's what I think of it when I hear shame.
Yes, yes.
What were you gonna say?
That I agree. I agree. Shame is like something that's very deep rooted within us. And it's like, sorry, excuse me. It's like a feeling or emotion that can really dictate how we present ourselves in life, whether we do something or we don't. And I think one of the reasons why we chose this to be our second episode, going into some really deep rooted feelings, is because it's summertime. We're women. So it's like, what's the first thing we think of around this time that everyone around us is thinking about as well? And it's our body image, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think that is one of the biggest things that comes up during summertime, especially.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with that. Everyone's trying, and it's funny because we're all trying to become this image, but where's this image coming from? Where are you getting this ultimate like goal? Like this is a goal.
Mhm.
Where are you
Mhm.
getting that from? Like where is this stemming from? What are you lacking or what are you desiring to have and why, right? We don't really think
Mhm.
about those things. We don't really get deep into those things.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so definitely things that we're going to be talking about. I agree with that. It's just more of like what we're feeling and what we're internalizing is more of the shame aspect versus judgment is us like, "Oh, mírala." Like, mira lo que estás
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
right? Like, "Oh, how dare he?" So, literally,
Yeah.
that's the judgment. You're comparing. And it's hard not to do. We're a society that does that. Like, it's so hard not to do that. even if we don't want to do it. But
Mhm.
it isn't until you start really tapping into your awareness and tapping into yourself and being happy with yourself and content with yourself that you'll stop the comparison. Because at that point, you're just like the only person you're comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday,
Mhm. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So,
Yourself, like you are your only competition
yes.
in, all reality. Like you only have to be better than you were yesterday or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I can definitely say that I am better now than I was when I was younger and when I did have a lot of judgment against others. I was always constantly comparing. Like I can remember a time and a shift in my life where it's like, I grew up good. Like I can't say I did not grow up good, okay? Like I was just, talking to you about it before the recording. I You shared your clothes with me and you always had some good stuff. I remember being, 10-year-old Jasmine walking around with her little Coach purse that, it's not even hers, it's her sister's. The same, different pair of Vans like every other day to color coordinate with your outfit, and things like that. So because that's what I was putting the priority on myself. Like I was prioritizing that in me. I would find myself judging others when they didn't have the same. There was um no other, let's see, uh quantifier that I could say that I would try to see in anyone besides that. So, looking back, I was very judgmental growing up. I had this very judgmental attitude about myself, even though I was still always quiet. Like I've always been, quiet. That is definitely true, but I still was judgmental on like what other people were wearing, especially where we lived. It's like it was about the shoes. What kind of shoes are you wearing? Are they the latest, kind? Are they the, high tops or low tops? Everything kind of revolved around that. And then moving here to Utah, to this tiny city, I don't live there anymore. This is when I first moved. Nobody cared about that. Absolutely no one. Like I had never seen people not care about the way they dressed or not care about, matching their clothes or what kind of brand was on their shoes. So coming here, that was kind of like an eye opener. Like, oh wow, how am I going to relate to people now? And that's when it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, oh crap, I kind of had this very judgmental mindset because I didn't really prioritize or value people for anything other than that. And then coming here and having that taken away and actually being like, okay, there's other things that now I had to learn to look for as well. And it was nice. It was a breath of fresh air because I ended up kind of always hanging out with the rockers at school, the metalheads, and I mean, there were some of the nicest, most caring people I feel like I had ever met, and it really shifted my perspective. And so I can say like after that I did kind of try to get out of this judgmental mindset. And I'm glad it happened when I was young because I feel like if I would have continued down the path I was going, I would have probably been very mean. Like I already look mean when you're looking at me. So to actually be that as well, I feel like that would have just been a disaster for me. So I'm glad it did happen when I was a little younger, but it's still like a practice that I had to practice literally daily. Even now, every now and then, I catch myself doing it. I was like, man, that really is deep inside me, this need to compare. myself to others. Like that is just so deep inside me that even after so much practice of not doing, even after so much work, like it still creeps up every now and then. And I gotta like shut it down, be like, no, go go
"You
away.
don't live here no more. Go. You don't live here."
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, that's a really good story of yours because usually when you experience judgment, the average person will be like, "Well, I'm always judged," or they're
Yeah.
always talking
Hmm.
about me. Or in this case, you were the judger.
Yeah.
You were the bad person.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's funny because it's so funny that you said that. You're like, "Yeah, you little 10-year-old Jasmine right there, feeling like a little rock star, wearing all my stuff." That must have been you living your best life.
I was. Yes.
And me on the other side, I worked my little ass off. I was working to the age of 15 at the swap
Yes.
meet, trying to get all these little things because I wanted to also compete and fit in with everyone that was in school and what was like
Mhm.
happening, what was the new things, right? Um, but yeah, I agree with you. It's a level of it's almost like entitlement sometimes when you're being judgy because you feel like, oh, like I'm good and they're not.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
it could go the other way, right? Sometimes I could catch myself I don't think I'm judgy. I think for me, sometimes I could catch myself being a little envious,
Mhm.
and it's more so because I strive. I want that. They have
Mhm.
something better and bigger than where I'm at, and I want that. I want to reach
Mhm.
there. So I don't think I'm very judgmental. I don't think I judge people. I've never really judged people. Like to me, I've always wanted to be a part of a group. I always wanted to like fit in with a group. So
Mhm.
I've always been like, you want to do that? Hell yeah, do that. Like you want to go there? Like hell yeah, do that. Like I've never
Mhm.
felt like I've had to judge people or like when I hear people are starting new right now, right? Like social media, like small businesses are booming right now, especially within the Latino community. Like they're just everywhere. Like everyone's starting like the new big shop, their new design, like sticker shop,
Mhm.
like Etsy. There's crazy things blowing up on Etsy. It's just so many things.
Yeah.
And I love to see it. I love to see people's creativity. I love to see people create things and own it, right? Like there's a level of pride to that. And I'm
Mhm.
happy for them. Like I like if people ask me to promote them, like I'll be like, oh, let's talk about it. Let's tag them on Instagram, like buy something. Because you want to help the people that you care about, right? But
Mhm.
we live in a society that more often than not, our own family, our own friends are the ones that are like, oh my god, like, they really think they're gonna succeed at that. Like, oh my god,
Mhm.
that is like she's not gonna do good, or he is, like,
Mhm.
way out of, like, where he needs to be. And it's sad because to me, it's just like, at the end of the day, it's their journey, not yours. So,
Exactly.
what do you gain by trying to badmouth an individual and bring that person down? There's nothing to gain out of it. If anything, you're poisoning yourself.
Mhm.
Like, when I hear people talking to me about other people, I'm like, "Ugh, I can only imagine what you say about me when I'm not
Yeah, right? Exactly.
feeling." I'm like, Is this how you talking about this person? Like, you I know my name is in their mouth. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it's not hurting me. It doesn't hurt me. So
Mhm.
and when people really know you for who you are, like, you and your genuine self, when people are bad mouthing you, if they really know who you are as a person, they're gonna be like, "Ah, this person's talking out of their butt. Like, this is not who they're talking about," right? Like, and you could kind of see that there's like some stem of like jealousy and comparison that's kind of like
Mhm.
boiling there, that's triggering those conversations. So judgment is it's a real thing, and especially with social media, it's blowing up even more.
Oh, yeah.
Is checking you out. Granted, I love to create. I love putting my business out there. I've never been shy about it. I remember ever since I was like in my early 20s, I'm like, I want to be a blogger. Like, I want to be a blogger.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
opened up back then before social media, like when you opened up your website and your domain and you would talk about like your blogging and your experiences. Like, I always said I wanted to do that, but that's just because that's my personality. I love to share what I'm doing. I love I love hearing people's stories. So I follow a bunch of influencers because I love hearing their stories. There's a
Mhm.
level of connectness, like you connect to that individual, even if you've never
Mhm.
met them, right? So, but along with that comes a lot of judgment.
Mhm.
Along with that, you have people that are rooting for you, and then you also have people that are like bad mouthing you. And it's just really unfortunate. I don't like that. I just feel
Yeah.
like if you don't have nothing nice to say, just don't say it at all.
Mhm.
If you come across something that one of your friends is posting that's not your cup of tea, you don't have to like every post. Just like whatever you relate to. But if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing about it. You don't gain nothing out of it. You have a choice to either be a supportive friend, supportive family member, supportive partner, supportive random person that you like. Sometimes the most random people are the people that support you the most.
Mhm.
Mhm. But there's no need for the judgment. There's no need for the hurt. There's no need for the comparison. If there is something that you are lacking, go out and change it.
Mhm.
Do something about it. But don't bash on the people that are trying to make a difference in whatever way, shape, or form they're choosing to do it. Don't bash on them. That doesn't look pretty on anyone.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And going back to some of the stuff that you said, these feelings that come up in us, maybe jealousy because we want that too,
Mhm.
or this desire for them to fail because maybe we don't want to see them go above us, right? Or something, in that matter. I always want to say, like, our feelings are telling us something, whether those feelings are, what we call negative feelings like shame, judgment, jealousy, or joy, happiness, content, whatever it might be. Those feelings are always, always, always trying to tell us something. So I do feel like sometimes, when, especially when it's someone close to us, like our close family members or close friends, are judging us on our accomplishments or maybe feeling jealous of our accomplishments, is because deep down within them, they might have that same desire, but they might be judging themselves about, like, oh, I cannot achieve that because I can't do this and this,
Mhm.
but they don't even go out and try because their judgment of themselves is holding them back, right?
Yeah,
So that's, something I always feel like we should always take into consideration too, is like, what are our feelings trying to tell us when we are feeling jealous or judgmental about someone, or maybe we have a random thought of that come up and we're like, oh wait, why is this happening? um to go back and ask yourself, like, what is this feeling trying to really tell me?
yeah, 100%. And then tying that part that you just mentioned about how it's triggering something, right? It's like it's our feelings and feeling that judgment towards ourselves. Like it's like we're judging ourselves because we're
Hmm.
we're not capable of taking that leap of faith
Hmm.
to do these things that maybe we would be good at too if we
Yeah.
took a chance.
Hmm.
It's kind of funny, like that TikTok I shared with you the other day, something along the lines of like, everybody wants to start something new. And just because someone started something doesn't mean that that's it, you give up on it. Someone's already created it.
Hmm.
You have your own unique style and your own unique delivery. You're gonna have your own unique presentation. So there could be 4 different bakers in the area. They're all gonna bring something different to the table.
Hmm.
There's gonna be 4 different podcasters in the area. They're all gonna talk about different topics. They're all gonna have different styles to them. There could be
Hmm.
4 different clothing boutiques starting at the same time in the same area. They're all gonna bring their own creative spunk. Like,
Hmm.
there's no one lane that says, "Oh, this has already been done, that's it. No one else can do it." And I think that's where we come into that comparison and, like, that competition kinda sticks in
Mhm.
amongst especially amongst a lot of Latinos, like, "Oh, no,
Mhm.
they already did it, yo no lo puedo hacer." Like, no, no, like, why? You know? But yeah, you can. You still could do it if you choose to do it. There's no stopping you. And that kind of segues into shame, talking a little bit about shame, because it's something more internal. That judgment kinda might, you know, tap into shame. What are you feeling inside? What have you been raised to believe that can be done and cannot be done, right? Like has what values have been instilled in you to make you believe like, oh, that shouldn't be done or that shouldn't be talked about? Because it's all learned behavior. We all
Mhm.
learn this. Shame, we don't wake up or we're not a 1-year-old and we're like, oh, we just feel shame. It's instilled in us. It's something that we have to go through and experience and feel that's gonna connect it to this trigger and this feeling of shame, this feeling of
Mhm.
unworthiness or like, "Oh my god, I did something wrong." Like, I have an example of that. Growing up, me being the first child, like I said in the last I'm like the guinea pig, right? Like, everything
Yeah.
that, like, tried it all before you got the good life 7
Yes.
years
Yeah.
ago. So I remember growing up, my mom was well, our whole family, we were Christian. And it wasn't like Christian, cool Christian. Like I consider myself, I'm a faithful believer still in Christianity, but I don't I would never go back to that type of Christian church that we grew up in. It was like that old school, like girls don't wear makeup, like they shouldn't be wearing jeans or pants. It wasn't like Jehovah Witness, but it was along those parameters, right? That type of
You
Christianity.
you
And
go to church, like, 5 days a week.
no, girl, that was you. I only did 2 days. They started getting a little bit more aggressive as you got as you started getting older.
Yeah.
But but I clearly remember, um, we couldn't listen to music. And I remember clearly when I was getting into, like, middle school and my friends would listen to music and I was getting all into music, and music was such a big important part of our culture, our society, and I couldn't listen to it because my mom would be like, "Oh, no, es música del diablo." Like, "That's the devil's music." Like, "What? What do you mean?" Like, "It's just music." Like, I
Mhm.
wanna listen to music. And it would be like a battle. And I remember one time I convinced her and I'm like, "Can you please give me a boombox? Like I want this boombox." And she's like, "Well, yeah, but only if you listen to like Christian music and like Christian CDs." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I just want to listen to music." And she's like, "All right, cool." And I remember like she bought it for me. And I remember at that time, I was like 15 years old. The moment I was able to like, I always looked older. I mean, I guess it was like a blessing and a curse, but I always look older than what I was. So I was like 15, looking like I was 18. So I
Mhm.
remember I got a job at the swap meet under the table, but I looked old enough. My customer service was on point. Like I would sell
Mhm.
things like hotcakes. Like in any stand that you would put me at, I would be selling. I would be hustling. And I remember I was like, "Oh, I could get my own CDs." There was like a CD and cassette shop next to my shop, and like I would go and buy music. And I remember having to like play music very low. Or like our parents, they worked long hours. So when they worked long hours, I would listen to music openly and not feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble, right? But at night, if I want to listen to music, I would put it down really, really low and just kind of listen to it in the room. And I always remember having this fear of like, oh my God, if they walk in here or if they knock on the door, like I'm gonna get in trouble over music. And I'm just like, what? Like thinking back now, I'm just like, that is so crazy that I felt shame, like I was doing something wrong over something that was not. But because that's the way I was brought up, that's what was instilled into me. In my mind, it was a shameful act that I was doing. And I'm just like, it blows my mind now because now my mom be listening to music Like when we go to parties, to be like, "Oh yeah, la Joana le gusta bailar," like, and I'm just like, "What? Like, where does this come from?" Like, this comes from the lady that didn't let me listen to music when I was a teenager. So I'm just thinking back on that. There's a lot of other experiences where I felt like my mom instilled this feeling of shame on me, but it was because she was really trying to do things by the church and do things like with my dad. And like it wasn't until they started kind of rumbling feathers and things started shifting and she left the church and she started kind of like changing gears between her and my dad that things kind of started shifting for all of us in the family. But yeah, like shame is it's not a good feeling because
Mhm.
it literally goes against what you believe is the right thing to do. And it's like in your mind, it's like consciously like, "Oh my god, am I doing the right thing? Am I not?" And
Mhm.
it kind of lingers on until my adulthood because I remember I always needed to be like a responsible one. And that kind of probably goes hand on hand with being the oldest of four. I always felt like I had to be responsible. I had to do this. I had to do that. And the moment that I wanted to like loosen up and have fun, I felt guilty for it. And I felt that shame like, oh my God, like I'm not supposed to be doing this. But
Mm.
that was just that was my journey at that time. I should have been able to listen to music at that time. I was doing nothing wrong. I should be able in my 20s and early like 18, 19, 20, to go out with friends and have a good time and not feel like I had to be the parent or the responsible one. Like everything goes through seasons and I always feel and I say this now, I feel like I was robbed from a childhood. I don't feel like I had a childhood. And that's a lot of the traumas that I have in the present moment, where it's like I'm trying to heal that inner child.
Mhm.
I didn't really get to do a lot of the things that my friends and my peers were doing that I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's deep. That is very deep because especially when it's something so simple, right? Like listening to music. Like there is all kinds of music. There's this vast variety, and it's good for now we know that it's good for us to listen to music. Our brains is very well on that. So to know that, you couldn't listen to music because you felt like ultimately you were literally doing something wrong. That's something very, very tough to like have to deal with, as an emotion. And yeah, that's really deep, but I can definitely see as to how, maybe some of that played into like you always wanting to do the right thing. Because if you kind of think about it, when we do something wrong, or at least for me, when I feel like I do something wrong, I always want to make up for it by doing more right. Are you right? Like choosing more right more often, as I would, think about it. So yeah, I can see that because you were with me, you were always very responsible. I mean, to me, you're my sister, but growing up with you, there were a lot of times when you were also like my second mother. So like growing up, I did feel like I had, two moms.
I was the
'Cause
cool one. I was a cool one for
yeah, yes. You were the cool one, yes.
no, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's just I just feel like we're getting older and we're really in tuning with like our inner selves and kind of flourishing into this level of awareness, right? Just think it's really important for us to talk about these topics because it's it's not a good feeling to feel. Like it's not good to feel judged. It's not good to feel shame. And I mean, I don't have any children yet, right? But you have a young boy.
Mhm.
And it's like based on our experiences and like how we grew up, well, you hearing my experiences versus your experiences because they're very different in the same household.
Mhm.
It's just, how do you start instilling the next generation with healthy boundaries and healthy like emotions, like to not instill shame into them, to not to teach them like, hey, judgment is like you should never judge, you should always be happy for people and support people and
Mhm.
help people. It's like I always say, like, when God blesses me with a child, um I'm really going to put in a lot of work into them and pour a lot of love into them because I don't want them to feel the way I felt
Mhm.
growing up.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the whole point of like every generation, like our parents did the best they could raising us. They did the best they could. And I'm grateful for everything that they did for us, considering our parents' upbringing and the
Yeah.
traumatic experiences that they went through, which we could
Yeah.
share in a different episode. I am like, they did a freaking hell of a great job raising
Yes.
us. But they also like they also passed on some of that trauma onto us because they
Mhm.
weren't properly healed and they weren't properly equipped to be able to talk about those things and not allow it to repeat and like remanifest into our lives.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, I really want to make sure that more than anything, for the women that have young children, it's like, let's start shifting that. Let's start making the proper changes so that we could raise healthier, stronger, emotionally, mentally students. Like, not students. Oh my God, I'm thinking
You're at work.
kids, right? Because that to me, it's like it's never gonna end. If you don't start paying attention to it and you don't start healing from it, you're going to continue to pass this on to generation to generation. Like one of the things that you talked about was like body shaming, right? In the
Mhm.
beginning, how or we're judgy of our bodies. Let's be honest, we're never happy. Like
Mhm.
I have not met a woman that is like, I am fully happy the way I am.
Mhm.
Like they have curly hair, they want straight hair. They have straight hair, they want curly hair. They're
Mhm.
curvy, they wish they were super thin. They're it's like it just and they're light skin, they wish they had a tan. They wish they were morenas. Like
Mhm.
never ending thing. Like everyone's always wanting a little bit of something that they see in someone else that they don't have. And I think it's very important for us to really embrace the beauty that we bring, the uniqueness that we bring, because everyone brings a different type of uniqueness. And when we start embracing that, that's when we are going to start opening up and feeling our best and feeling in our sexiest versions, right?
Mhm.
Because I remember kind of like with my our uncles and like aunts, they were really reserved growing up, right? And my mom wasn't like that. I think that's one of the things about my mom. My mom, ever since I was young, like she would buy me little mini skirts, like she would buy me like little like crop tops, like when I was like a teenager, when I was like in even when I was like getting a little older, high school. And I remember like people would like judge her, like some of our family, and they would be like, ¿Por qué le compras eso? Like, ¿por qué está
Mhm.
right? And then just like why is she dressed like that? Like, why are you allowing that? And my mom's like, she has a nice body. Like, let her wear what she wants to wear. Like, what's the problem? Like, what is she taking from you or giving you, right?
Mhm.
I feel like in a lot of Hispanic cultures, they wanted the girls to like hide their sexiness. They wanted to like capsule it because you don't want to catch the attention of like perverts or you don't want
Mhm.
people to be looking at you. And it's just like that's a them problem.
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to hold back what I'm doing because they can't control themselves,
Exactly. Mhm.
right? And I think
Mhm.
that comes along with like instilling that judgment since you're a little young girl or a young boy, or instilling that shame into you. Like,
Mhm.
and as you start growing up, it's like, oh, I can't wear a certain thing, or I can't. Like, women start dimming their light, and they're not fulfilling in their full sexuality. They're not like
Yeah.
embracing their bodies and like
Mhm.
expressing themselves the way they want to because there's someone that's gonna say something. There's someone that's gonna think a certain way. And even then, they start thinking a certain way about themselves.
Mhm. Yes.
But it's like we only have one life. Why do you feel like you have to be capsuled into like, this is where I was this whole time and this is where I need to stay? Like, I think it's time for people to just really start embracing their beauty, their shapes, their color, their hair, their tans, like just everything. Just really embody that.
Yes,
Guess
yes.
because guess what, honey? The body you had when you were 20, you're not gonna have that body when you're 30. And the body you
No.
have when you're 30, you're not gonna have that body when you're 40. So at
Mhm.
every stage of your life, embrace your body. Because there's gonna be a point in our lives where we're gonna be 60 and 70, and unless we get J-Lo's coach and her like nutrition, we're gonna start getting wrinkly. We're gonna start getting saggy. We're not gonna be as perky in certain areas, right?
Mhm.
So why not embrace it now? Why not really be fully present and love yourself now?
Mhm. Exactly. And that is just, I mean, coming from first generation Americans, Latinos, going back to what you said, yes, we are shamed for our sexual feminine energy,
Mhm,
which, I'm spiritual, so I'm all about this. This is where we get our true inner power. This, when you
mhm,
hear this word of like God is being thrown around and this and that, it's this essence that exudes from us. It just is. And I don't know who started shaming it, but I know they did it because they wanted power and control over us. When we shame ourselves, when we judge ourselves, it stops us from doing things that we desire, from doing things we want to do that might be really good for us, that might help us grow, that might help us heal. All those things just shut us down because we are just indoctrinated with it since we're born, you
mhm,
know? Like literally since we are born, these things are happening constantly to children. With me being a mom, Mateus is 4, so he's a little older now, but there are things that I have had to be uncomfortable with in order for me to allow him to not feel shame, not feel embarrassed about himself and his bodily autonomy. Now, mom did do a good job with teaching us about this as well, but passing it down to a different gender, I'm like me and his dad co-parent, but we both live in separate cities, both live in different places, and we split the time. So when he's here with me, it's just me.
mhm,
And so there is kind of more of this difference that has come to me to kind of teach him. But there's always this question that comes up. Okay, but we are essentially different genders, different energies. I would say, because I would say his energy is very, masculine, like into all the hardcore boy stuff and monster trucks and jumping all over the couch. It's very high energy. And with me, obviously, I carry a different energy, but still I can still model behavior in myself that he will pick up on. And I think that's one of the hardest things about parenting and being a woman that is learning how to love her body is seeing the impact in Mateus, right? Seeing what my example and how it is actually impacting someone else. Seeing that by me being okay with my body, loving my body the way it is now, not putting myself down, that he is seeing that.
mhm,
And children literally learn by example. I could sit there and talk to him about bodily autonomy. I could sit there and tell him, love yourself, love your body no matter what, even when your body goes through changes. I could do all that stuff. It doesn't make a difference. It needs to be seen. It
Yeah.
needs to be seen from someone else that may be, you know, a, usually a parent, right? That's where it starts. Like we want to see it from the parent figure onto us. Like, okay, this is how we are gonna instill this in us. So that's I feel like how it should be, but it isn't, right? Instead, we're being instilled with these um, thoughts of shame
Yeah.
in our bodies and who we are. And so going back and working backwards is really hard. Like I could say, me, I am a small person. I always have been a small person. But before I had Mateus, I was even smaller. Like I was like, you know, and and I
No, it
still
was like this big. I'm like, oh, I'm so
yeah.
jealous.
Yeah, and I still even then I still could not fully accept my body. I still could not fully love my body the way it was. And now I look back and I think back, I'm like, damn, I don't even remember what I actually look like. Like I remember being skinny, but thinking about seeing myself naked in front of the mirror now and then trying to picture myself, maybe naked in front of the mirror when I was 21, I can't picture it. And sometimes I think it's because I didn't actually do that. Because I don't know if you feel this or, everyone feels this, but who actually likes to see their body in the mirror fully naked? Like, I don't know anyone who isn't intimidated by just the thought of having to see themselves naked.
Yeah.
So now that I can do that, I'm like, man, that's really sad for me to realize that at one point I had this mindset, even though I did look very well. I feel like I had what people would say is a nice body. And even then I did not like it. I didn't detest it. So it's really sad for me to come to that realization and be like, wow, even when you do have what you're asking for and what you want, you still don't end up loving it
Yeah.
because it's not coming from within you. And now after having a baby, I've had to relearn my body. Like everything changes after you have a baby. Your body changes after you have a baby. And relearning my body and how it works and learning to love it has been an absolute game changer. Just
Girl, that's a
absolute
round
game
of applause
changer.
right there. Hold on. Yes.
Yay.
Yes, that is so powerful what you just said. Just really learning to embrace where you are right now, your present moment, and love yourself for who you are in this present moment is so important. And yeah,
Mhm.
we hell no, I don't want to look at myself naked in the mirror. Like,
Right? It's
oh, like,
scary. It's
yeah,
intimidating.
yeah,
But
and it is
why?
because we don't have that, we don't have that enough self-love for ourselves.
Mm-mm, we do
Like
not.
when we look in the mirror and we see ourselves in our most vulnerable state, it's like, okay, God, I have these hands, I have these legs, like, I got a little bit of shape going on, or whatever the
Mhm,
case is. Embrace what you have because there's other people that wish they had what you have.
mhm.
And if you're not loving yourself in the present moment, it's gonna go by like this.
Yes.
And by the time you go to the next decade of your life, and if you're still not loving who you are, you're gonna go into your deathbed and you never really connect it with yourself
Mhm,
in that intimate level of like just loving yourself for who you are. So
mhm.
yeah, I think it's so important. I love what you said that, sister, because I feel like there's a lot of moms I have some of my friends that, they're like, "Oh, I hate this about me now," or "I hate this about me." And
Mhm.
I look at them and I'm like, "You look beautiful. I love the way you look. Like, you look freaking hot to be a mom,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, girl, like when I have kids, I want a body like that." And they're like, "No, it looks good with clothes on. But the moment you strip clothes off of your body, you have the stretch marks, you have
Mhm.
the saggy, like, stomach, you have,
Mhm.
the saggy arms." And I'm just like, "You look phenomenal." She's like, "Yeah, with clothes on. Let me strip down and I won't be that person." And it's literally their self-image of themselves because
Mhm.
everyone around them is telling them they're beautiful and they got it going on. But in their image, they're like, "I'm I'm done. Like, I'm not who I used to be." But
Mhm.
because they need to relearn how to love themselves in
Yes.
that stage where they're at. They need to look
Mhm.
at that child and be like, "Man, I look freaking phenomenal. I had you
Mhm.
and look at."
Yes.
We need to own that, because we are gonna change. Whether we have kids or not, our body is different.
Exactly.
I don't have the same body when I was 25. Like,
Mhm.
it's different, right? So I
Yes.
just feel like no matter what, we're gonna be changing constantly. So we have to learn how to love ourselves with every change that comes.
Yes, and learn how to dive deep into those feelings of judging yourself and shaming yourself for not looking like a celebrity or not looking like a fitness influencer or
Don't
this or that, comparing ourselves. We really, it's a lot of work to go through, but there are small steps we can take to at least try to silence that mean voice that's being, that we ourselves are using against ourselves.
100%. One thing that was popping in mind right now when you said that is, I'm like, don't even get me started with the Kardashians. I cannot stand them. Granted, they're smart as hell. They are a smart group of women because they know exactly how to get you to want what they have. And for that, I'm just like, okay, you guys are smart. But I cannot stand the unrealistic body image that they are projecting out to the world.
Mhm.
Only they have the money to go in there and strip down and like slim their waist half of their size in 3 months. Only they
Mhm.
have the money to go and like put all these different implants and all these cosmetic procedures to enhance their beauty. Only they have that, right? But they're really
Mhm.
projecting it out like it's so attainable. And people are going out and putting things on credit cards and line of credits to
Mhm.
resemble this and to look this because they are thinking like this is beauty. This is
Mhm.
I look this way. I am gonna be accepted and I'm gonna have people at my feet because I'm gonna be beautiful. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's like they have the money to change their appearance from one year to another,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
by the time they're in their 60s, they're gonna reduce some of that, change it into something else, and look banging at 62.
Mhm.
But what about are you gonna have the money to go in there and take things out and adjust it and do something else? Like, it's unrealistic expectations that these women are setting when it comes to
Yes.
body image,
Yes.
and that's where I have a pickle with them, and that's one of the reasons why I don't follow them, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, did you see this? Did you see that?" I'm like, "No, I don't care to follow them," because to me, it's so unrealistic. I can't,
Yes.
you know? I'm like, because it bothers me, it triggers me. Um, but yeah, all to say, it all comes down to self-love.
Yes.
Self-love, it all comes down to self-awareness. It all comes down to healing yourself from all those shameful feelings that you felt or you continue to feel, and learning how to be less judgmental, learning how to now not allow people's judgy comments to weigh you down.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to kind of like talk about in this episode and just bring that to the light because not enough people talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, and how we do it, how we voraciously do it within ourselves, like how we are probably our biggest critics. Because if we weren't telling ourselves, I need to look like that, we wouldn't be going out there trying to achieve it, right?
You
We wouldn't be going out there trying to replicate looking like some celebrity or some fitness person. We would be happy the way we look and accept that they are happy the way they look.
The funny part is that a lot of people that do all that extra stuff, they're not happy.
They're not. That is
They
the
do,
main concern.
yeah, they do
Yes.
so much, and then they reach this what other people perceive as something. Oh my God, that's goals right there.
Hmm.
They're not happy with themselves. It's kind of like what you said. When you were younger, you had this rocking little hot body, but you didn't feel like that.
No,
People perceived you that way, but you didn't feel that way.
no.
So it really comes down to the perception of what you see yourself and how you see yourself. That's really what it
Hmm.
comes down to.
Yes. And that's what's important. That
Yeah,
is what is, it's not important what other people are saying about you. It's not important how other people are judging you, because that's always going to be there. And yes, it's going to be hurtful.
yeah,
But what's important is how you perceive yourself.
yes. Agree. All right. That was a pretty lengthy episode. But it's just so much to talk about in this area. But yeah, please leave us comments. Let us know if there's topics that you guys would like to hear us talk about. We have, like I said, we have a number of them lined up already. But we would like to hear your feedback and just see what you're struggling with or see your perspective on things, so that we could just kind of continue the building of the community. That is the overall plan.
Yeah, and if you want some ideas on how we did it, how we shifted, this mindset in ourselves, just let us know and we can do an episode on that.
Yeah, because we've been putting in a lot of work in all
Yeah.
areas, all aspects. And I mean, to some people, it might not seem like it, but the glow up is real of
Yes.
where we are
Hmm.
now versus where we were 5, 6 years ago. So,
Hmm. Oh, yes, absolutely.
10 years ago. But
Hmm.
yeah, we would be really excited to share that journey with you all as well. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in. And we're still working on getting these episodes on Spotify. Bear with us a little bit. But you could always tune in here and watch them on YouTube. All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye.